It is our favorite time of the year as football fans. It is mock draft season. Welcome back in to the Just Beavin podcast. Andy, JP here with you. JP, this is our second year mocking, doing the offseason analysis, everything that goes into it. We are less than a week out. We're actually just a few days away from the legal tampering period opening up in the NFL. We're recording this on Thursday. It'll be Monday where that opens up. So we are getting our pre-free agency mock draft in just at the buzzer. We will do no trades, none of that, but this is our 2026 mock draft 1.0, and I couldn't be any more excited to be doing this right now. You know, this is some of our favorite content put out every year.
Yeah, and to go with that, there's been a couple trades over the last couple days in the real NFL that we'll talk about when we get to those teams' picks. But it truly is this is gonna be the first mock I've done since those trades, considering one of them happened today. But even
Yeah.
since the two that occurred yesterday, it certainly alters the picks that I was or that I would assumed those teams are gonna pick. So
Yeah, and there's a lot to get into. Let's just dive in. JP is going to do the odds. I'm going to do the even picks. And once we are able to get it up, JP, you didn't waste any time with pick number one in the Las Vegas Raiders, and you have them selecting the reigning Heisman Trophy.
yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt in anyone's mind that the Raiders are taking Mendoza. I think the last time I even saw odds, it was before the combine, even before the Senior Bowl, and he was already minus 7,000 to go to the Raiders. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Now, whether or not he's worth the 101, that's up for debate, but I don't think there's any doubt that he is going 101.
Yeah, right. An incredible season. As I mentioned, the Heisman Trophy winner leading Indiana to a national title. Incredible stuff. And back to back years, man. The quarterback classes have not been super strong, but this is going to be another year with a quarterback going number one overall. We saw Cam Ward go number one last year, Caleb go number one in 2024, and that trend is going to continue here in 2026. I don't think we really have much else to add here with the top pick. And this is really where the draft gets interesting. Pick number two, the New York Jets. It's the first of two picks they have in the first round. They have selections 2 and 16. It's good for this organization. They're not a good state right now. They have a lot of needs they need to fill. And I think this comes down to two guys, JP. It's either going to be Arvell Reese or it's going to be David Bailey. I'm going to have them take Arvell Reese, a bit more versatility. He can rush the quarterback on the outside. He can play linebacker. He tested really well at the combine. I could see them going Bailey, but at the end of the day, I think Reese is a better blue chip prospect, and that's where I see the Jets leaning here.
Yeah, I agree. I also think they're going to take Reese, and I do also agree that it is between Reese and Bailey. Now, I don't agree with that under any circumstance. I think Ruben Bain is the true one of one guy in this class. I think Reese, like the whole argument is like, oh, what he's gonna be, oh, what he's gonna be, oh, he's really not a proven edge prospect, and he's really not a proven linebacker prospect. So,
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what you do with him, once you get him, that's all up in the air. With Ruben Bain, you know exactly what you're getting, short arms and all. I'm really not
I
sure how
hate
there's.
that, dude. From
I'm
an
really
analysis
not.
stamp, I hate that.
I'm really not sure how there's much debate on Ruben Bain, but there is, and I do agree that I think the Jets are taking a reset too.
So then I'll pivot to you here with the Cardinals at number three. We've seen a lot of stuff. They desperately need another offensive tackle outside of Paris Johnson, but this tackle class is okay. It's deep, but there really isn't an elite talent like we saw in Will Campbell last year. So it feels like it would be a reach at number three going with a tackle. Do they stick on the defensive side of the ball, and do they take a guy like David Bailey or Ruben Bain?
Now, popular pick I've seen, especially since the end of the combine, is Sonny Styles. I don't think Sonny Styles is worth a top five pick. Hell, I don't even really think he's worth a top 10 pick at that. Linebacker is a hole for the Cardinals. They've addressed the defensive line the past two drafts with Walter Nolan last year and what was it, Darius Robinson? I want to say 2 years ago out of Mizzou. I think that's his
Yeah.
name. Uh, and then Josh Sweat in free agency last year, and so they've addressed that. With that said, I still think that's the route they're going to go. The Love, you could talk yourself into Love, but them cutting Kyler has pretty much, which is another thing we didn't even talk about. They cut Kyler Murray,
Yeah.
so I don't think Ty Simpson's in play at three. You're starting the rebuild here. Jeremiah Love would be an option, but do you really? We just saw the Raiders do that with Ginty, and it was an absolute flop. I don't think you want to start a rebuild off with a running back. I'm going to give them David Bailey.
Yeah, and like we mentioned, there's a lot going on in Arizona. I think we mentioned whether this was on this podcast or away. Obviously, there were a handful of head coaching vacancies this offseason that weren't super desirable, ones like Vegas and others. You and I talked, man. I said, listen, I get that Arizona, it might not be as bad in terms of what you're seeing from the front office, but on paper, there is not a lot to love right now with Arizona. There's a lot that needs fixing on both sides of the ball. That is going to be a process and a project. And why am I blanking on who took the Cardinals job right now? I'm
Mike
totally
LaFleur.
freezing. Mike LaFleur did. That's right. And that's, I mean, it's a really good get for them, I think, based on where they're at. Granted, hasn't been calling the plays. That was Sean McVay out in Los Angeles, but him and his staff are going to have a lot of work to do. I think David Bailey's a solid guy to get that tenure going for him. Number 4, Ty McCain's Tennessee Titans. Where do they look here? There was so much smoke out of the combine. JP and I are big combine guys. JP watches a lot more of it than I am able to. So he was messaging me a lot last weekend, and we were able to watch a lot of the guys run the 40s, do the drills, all that good stuff. And the big word on Tennessee out of the combine is they were super high on Jeremiah Love. I don't see him going this high though. I understand why they
He
could
was
do
there. He was
so.
there on a visit today.
Was he? See,
He was in Tennessee.
and that's where this is. I when I knew I was having to even picks, I'm like number 4, number 6, the Browns. That is a tough choice for me to make as well. Tennessee, it's difficult because you look at this roster. They're picking in the top 5 for a reason after picking number 1 last year. They need a lot of help on both sides of the ball. Ruben Bain's a guy who's been all over the place. He's been in the top 5. He's fallen out of the top 10, which I don't think he'll do so, regardless of what people have to say. For me, this pick comes down to Jeremiah Love and Ruben Bain. And just the thought of having Ruben Bain and Jeffrey Simmons on that defensive line together is just way too enticing to pass on. I'm going to take Ruben Bain here at 4. I know that might be too high for some draft analysts, but if we're looking just based on the tape, man, and what this guy can do, it's hard to not have him penciled in as a top 5 talent. I think he does wonders for Robert Saleh's defense in his first year as the Titans head coach.
Yeah, I mean, this is too low in my own analysis for Ruben Bain to go. I don't know if the Titans are going to do this in real life. It makes so much sense for them to do it. They need edge help. I know they just went and traded Tavondre Sweat for Jermaine Johnson, which was so dumb. I can't even begin to discuss how dumb that was. But they still need edge help. Ruben Bain is so good. This would be such a home run for the Titans, and it would make sense. It'd fill a big need for them.
Would you go Love in that spot?
Honestly, I think I would probably still go Carnell Tate. I know
Okay.
Dable has a lot of ties to the Big
Is that why
Ten.
you flashed the receiver tab?
Well, we started talking about the combine, and I thought you were going to talk about who. Then you said 40s, and I was like, okay, there's one guy who's big time bad 40 right now, 40 gate, as they're saying all
Yeah,
over the
because you
place.
see the text from all the scouts and Adam Schefter and other analysts putting that out online that they clocked him on their own watches in the 4.4s, but Carnell Tate's in the 4.5s out of the combine. There was a lot of smoke there.
Yeah, I don't know who his agent is. I'm looking it up. My guess is it's Drew Rosenhaus. Yep, I
Yeah, he's
I knew it
like
was Drew
most of
Rosenhaus.
the
And so,
yeah.
anyways, I don't know how much money he paid Adam Schefter to start blowing this Carnell Tate smoke out of everywhere. But are we saying the combine's lying? So did Jeremiah Love run a 4.24? Is that what happened? Like I just don't understand why it applies to everyone except Carnell Tate. I don't. I'm not holding it against Tate. I don't care whether he ran a 4.6 or a 4.3. But I don't understand what that big difference from 4.47 to 4.52 and why everyone's losing sleep over it.
Yeah, it's a lot for sure. We'll see how that kind of plays out as the month of March goes along. We're gonna have pro days and all that other good stuff to see where everyone else lands that's projected with a first round grade. You're on the clock here with the Giants at 5. There's a lot of ways they could take this pick as well.
Yeah, the two guys I'm really between are Styles and Downs. I just talked about how I don't think Styles is worth the top 5 pick. Now I don't know if the NFL feels that way. After that combine, I mean the hype around him is
Unbelievable.
unbelievable. Probably the highest we've seen in the linebacker prospect since I don't even know Tremaine Edmonds coming out of college, Roquan Smith coming out of college, just to name a
Yeah.
few. I really don't know the last time we've seen this much hype from a linebacker. And then the other one I'm between is the probably the best player in the class, if not the second best player in the class, Caleb Downs. Now, all that stuff just came out about his knee, torn meniscus, which people play on all the time. That's really nothing. But then he's got degenerative knees or something, which again, guys play in the NFL with that all the time. I'm not putting too much stock into it. The pick is Caleb Downs to me.
All right.
Harbaugh, he's the Kyle Hamilton, Ed Reed, the safety connections there. They need help defensively. It would let Javon Bullard kind of move back into that roaming safety kind of hybrid nickel spot that he was really good in. I think Downs would be a home run at 5.
Yeah, just from a talent standpoint, he is that guy. He's most certainly a top five talent, if not top three. I mean, I've seen him go mock as high as number two. I don't think he'll go there. I do think it'll be Arvell Reset too, but from a talent standpoint alone, I'm not going to argue with you there, man. There's a lot of defensive spots that need to be covered and taken care of for the Giants. I think Caleb Downs is a blue chip home run guy who can be a leader for this defense. I think if we're going to look at hype safety prospects, he's the most hype safety prospect since Kyle Hamilton. And I think that's where you get some concerns of safety is such a weird position to draft. It's safety and linebacker are kind of like the running back on the defensive side of the ball. It's like, where do these guys fit in? We saw Kyle Hamilton fall in his draft nearly out of the top half of the first round. He went to Baltimore, which ended up being a great spot. I don't think Caleb Downs is that same caliber of a guy who could fall. Now, might he on draft night? Sure. Do I think he should? No. And that's why I like him going 5 here in your selection to the Giants. If the Giants didn't pick him up, I could see him going to Washington. I could also see Cincinnati making a play. Or, man, if someone wants to get really aggressive, they can move up as well if he falls out of the top 5. That's a good spot there for Caleb Downs. That rounds out our top 5. And that brings a really important decision here at pick number 6 with the Cleveland Browns. They have 2, as you can see in the top right-hand corner of your screen. They're picking at 6, and they're picking at 24. They desperately need offensive line help. This is, I think, the first time ever all 5 of their offensive linemen are pending free agents. They really need help in that spot, but they could also use some more pass catchers as well. I was really grappling with this pick. Obviously, a tackle would be huge, but then you make the argument, is this too high to take a tackle still based on what's on the board and on the talent? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to have Cleveland take a pass catcher here. This is where we see our first receiver go off the board. I'm going to have them go with Carnell Tate. This was such a 50-50 call for me in this spot, and people can feel free in the comments to call me out if I'm wrong here. I'm hoping I have Cleveland's pick again at 24. I'm hoping the offensive tackle board will still be solid for them to take a guy there. I think it will be based on the depth of the offensive tackle class, but I think Tate's just too good of a talent to pass on here, and I feel like taking a tackle over him in a reach situation just wouldn't be ideal for this front office.
Yeah, it's a tough spot because what's going to be there at 24? Do you like the receivers as much? Are you going to pass on Tate or Tyson or Lemon to maybe then end up taking Boston or
Omar
Cooper or
Cooper, yeah.
Concepcion? Yeah. Or would you rather pass now on Maui Goa, Fano, Freeling? I've seen
Yeah.
mock this high too,
I
which
saw I saw him mocked at number 6 today.
Yep, I saw that same one. I'm pretty sure, and that's out of left field. I'm certainly not there on Freeling, whether it's a bad tackle class or not. I think that'd be an overdraft. But I think the question boils down to: do you want one of the blue chip wide receivers, and you can possibly get one of those tackles I just listed to fall? Hell, even Caden Proctor would be there. Lomu's still definitely there. Blake Miller's definitely there at 24. Uh, or do you overdraft one of the tackles to make sure you get your guy, and then you take the lower end of the wide receiver totem pole? I'm with you. I think Carnell Tate is the right pick. I think that's what they should do. I'm not certain. It's the Browns. I'm really not sure what they're going to do. Todd Monken and the Ravens really haven't had a superstar wide receiver. I don't know if that's going to be the path he goes or not. But I think Carnell Tate's the right pick.
And I think from a fantasy perspective, we're talking Beaverfest, we're talking redraft, we're talking anyone else in the Dynasty League. I think we're hoping Carnell Tate doesn't go to the Browns.
Yeah.
That would be a fantasy nightmare. But hey, I'm just picking it as I see it right now. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Washington at number 7, following a year where Jaden Daniels, as a rookie, took them to the NFC Championship. JP, which side of the ball are the Commanders going to take here in the top 10?
Yeah, I think this is actually the easiest pick I've had to make so far. I've seen Love mocked here a lot, but if Sonny Styles falls all the way to 7, I don't think there's a chance in hell Dan Quinn passes him up. I think they're going to go Sonny Styles here. I honestly, I don't think Jeremiah Love would be a good pick for Washington. I know they're only one full season removed from an NFC Championship appearance, but I think we all knew that was kind of fluky. It showed last year, even when Jaden Daniels was playing, there were so many holes on that defense. The offensive line was just not very good. The running back room was bad. Outside of McLaurin, the pass catching room was awful. There's a lot of holes on this team, and I'm not saying that taking a linebacker in the top 10 is going to fix those holes, but at least you get something that you're going to have, 9 good years of where Love's one injury away from his career being stalled out. Whereas linebacker, you got a little better recovery rate on that. I don't think there's a chance in hell they pass up Sonny Styles if he's there at 7.
Yeah, you mentioned Dan Quinn, right? He's a defensive-minded head coach. That's where his brain goes first. And say what you want about Styles when looking at the tape. And I know you and I are more tape first guys over combine and testing. But man, I mean, he's a freak, dude. He is an athletic freak. He really stood out at the combine. He made his presence known as someone who could be a really elite talent just based on his physical traits in this draft. Doesn't shock me here that you took him. I knew as soon as you didn't take him at 5 the Giants, I had a feeling he wasn't going to fall that much further. And I think he can really be a huge leader for this Washington defense down the line. Someone stable, a steady Eddie in that front 7 and in that back 7 as well. We move to the Saints at number 8. And I know this isn't listed as a need for them. When we were doing these mock drafts, I think we said this last year. Part of it is what JP and I want to happen, what we think they should do, but we also have to put ourselves into the shoes of these front offices and what we think they will do, not necessarily what they should do. I'm seeing this as a popular pick in box, and honestly, if this guy doesn't go here, I really don't know where he would end up going. Maybe he'd go at 9 to Kansas City, but the Chiefs just don't seem like the type of team to pick a running back that high. This is where Jeremiah Love goes, in my opinion, at number 8 to New Orleans. I think they have bigger needs. I know they have bigger needs, but this is just a pure talent pick alone. Alvin Kamara is on his way out. I wouldn't be shocked if they find a trade partner for him either right before or right after the new league year begins next week. Get a day 3 pick or maybe 2 in return for him, and you reset the wheel with an elite running back at Jeremiah Love. It might not be the most popular pick. I've seen this mocked a lot. That influenced my decision for sure. And I don't know, JP, you could call me out if I'm wrong on my analysis with Kansas City, but even if Love's on the board there, I know it would be hard for them to pass, but that doesn't seem like something the Chiefs would do. They really need to build the trenches again, and it feels like them taking a running back with a top 10 pick, which they don't get a lot of anymore, would feel like a waste.
Yeah, I think when you're in the position to take a premium player in the top 10, like we've been saying, if Ruben Bain falls, that's sitting in their lap. If David Bailey falls, that's sitting in their lap. I truly don't think the Chiefs are taking Love, regardless of how the board falls. Like you just mentioned, not to say that Love isn't a blue chip prospect. He's the best running back I've watched since Bijan Robinson. Top 3 player in the class for sure. Whatever the order is between Bain, Downs, and Love for me. Um, but he is not a blue chip position. I think when you are staring at, Maui Goa there, hell, even Thieneman. I think Thieneman is the combine has played his way into the
Dude's
top
a
10.
beast.
I don't think the Chiefs are looking at running back though. The Saints, on the other hand, I think that is superbly in play. Kamara's old. He didn't even look very good when he was playing. Kendre Miller just had his 3rd season-ending injury.
Brutal.
Devin Neal goes down with injury. Hell, Audric Estime was out there getting starting running back snaps in the big 2-5. So I think it makes sense. I think this would be a damn fun offense. We saw what Kellen Moore did with a steady offensive line in Philly, a quarterback who's limited to a degree but is not afraid to throw the ball, and then Saquon Barkley. I mean, Love is about the closest thing we're going to see to Saquon outside of Bijan. So Saints would be a lot of fun at the bare minimum. They'd be a very, very, very feisty 7-win football team.
We've seen a lot of Carnell Tate mock there at 8 as well. Obviously, that's not happening here because we had him go earlier. Would definitely make sense. If Love is, for whatever reason, off the board and Tate is on the board, they definitely would prefer a guy like that. But this is just how our board shakes out. How about the Kansas City Chiefs picking in the top 10? Never did I think we'd see the day again where this is possible. And you mentioned we talked trades right before we hopped on the draft board, JP. That applies with Kansas City. They made a deal yesterday trading Trent McDuffie to the Los Angeles Rams for the 29th overall pick in the draft. That's why they now own picks 9 and 29, along with a couple of other draft selections, both in this year's draft and in the future. That opens up another need for them every cornerback is on the board here at 9. They could go anywhere. They also have a pressing need on the offensive line. They just cut Jawan Taylor loose to save $20 million in cap. The world is their oyster here at number 9.
Yeah, I think this entire pick comes down to, is Rashee Rice playing for the Kansas City Correctional Facility, or will he be playing for the Chiefs this year? I'm going to I'm gonna make this pick under the assumption that he will not be playing for the Chiefs in the entire 2026-2027 season. I know we said that they need to, rebuild the trenches on both sides of the ball. I think there's like the same thing that we talked about for the Browns. I think there's going to be still some really high offensive line talent in the late 20s. I think you're for sure getting, Caden McDonald or Lee Hunter there or Christian Miller there. You get your guy right next to Chris Jones. What I don't think is going to be there, I don't think Jordan Tyson is going to be there.
Love
And
it.
I know that's high, and this is honestly probably the first time a lot of people have seen Tyson mocked to Kansas City. But if Rashee Rice is out, we just saw how bad the pass catching core was with just Worthy or Brown or hell, I can't even Juju Smith Schuster. Uh, while a lot of people think Lemon is better than Tyson, that's neither here or there. I have Tyson graded higher, but that doesn't matter anyways. Lemon doesn't even fit the bill for what they would need. They're going to need a true alpha, a true outside threat, true X, and Jordan Tyson is that guy. I don't know what the health write up is on him right now. They're going to find that out at the pro day and through all these meetings. But if Rashee Rice is out for the season, and that's how I'm operating, Jordan Tyson to the Chiefs would be an absolute home run pick.
Yeah, I love it. And I really think we mentioned the trenches, offensive line, defensive line, now receiver being thrown in. They also have a need at corner after trading Trent McDuffie. So they have 2 first-round picks and quite a few needs to fill. And obviously, we're recording this before the new league year opens, free agency. We'll get more trades. So things could change. And that's why, we're doing this now. This is 1.0 for a reason. And we're operating under the assumption that, nobody makes any moves. This is what happens if things are as they are right now. When are they going to get an opportunity to take a skill position player this high caliber again in the Patrick Mahomes era for the next decade plus? They probably won't, unless Mahomes has another season-ending injury, but very early in the season, like Tom Brady did, when then Matt Castle had to step in and et cetera. But even then, I think the Patriots still did. I could be blanking. I don't think they
I
were
think
that
they
good
went
that year.
7-7-9 that year.
Yeah, and even then, that's not it's not a top 5. That might have been a top 10 pick. We'd have to get our research department on that, but still, this is a golden opportunity here to take an elite caliber. Because think about it, since Tyreek Hill left, Travis Kelce's aging. Who's been the elite guy? I mean, Rashee Rice is a good player. He's got to stay on the football field. That's like problem number one. They took Xavier Worthy. I mean, we talk about him a ton on Just Beavin. We're all over the board on him and his very limited in this offense. So no, Jordan Tyson. I like your word alpha. He's a true alpha, and that's what they're getting here. I love that pick in the top 10, getting a pass catcher, getting Mahomes some help coming off that injury. We round out the top 10. My selection for Cincinnati. JP, we watched the Bengals secondary firsthand last season when they took on our Bears. And my oh my, was it absolutely abysmal. The entire
Horrible.
defensive side of the ball has just been disregarded in Cincinnati for the last 5+ years. That's going to change here at number 10. And they're going to take the first corner of this draft. They're going to take Mansour Delane out of Louisiana State. I love this kid. He's the top corner in the class for a reason. Wouldn't say I don't think it's close, but he's very clearly the top corner. Secondary at a premium. If Caleb Downs somehow were to fall to 10 in Cincinnati, I think they're going to be doing cartwheels in their war room. They take him, no questions asked, but obviously he went 5 picks before. We're still addressing the secondary here. You get the top corner in the class. I don't see any complaints from their front office whatsoever here.
No, you could have taken pretty much any of the top 10 guys on this board, and it's a position to need for Cincinnati. Outside of corner or outside of quarterback and wide receiver, I think just about every single position on that team is a need. And everyone's going to be, oh, Joe Burrow's coming back. This team's competing for the AFC North. Yet again, I will be putting in my future for the Bengals to miss the playoffs, as I will. It'll now be or what am I turning 24? So it'll now be 3 consecutive years that I've done that. It's free money at this point. It's an unlimited lotto ticket. But yeah, Delane is a much needed pick. Whether you go Delane there or Thieneman, anything to address the secondary, hell, anything to address the defense is a good pick for Cincinnati.
I've seen defensive line as well. Could you see a guy like Peter Woods or Caleb Banks, or is this way too early on the interior defensive line for those guys? And then I guess I could pitch the same question to you about a guy like Mawagoa, even though that once again is on the offensive side.
Well, I think on the defensive side of the ball, the reason I would certainly say no to Banks would be in now. I don't know if this is how they think, but if I'm putting myself in the Bengals shoes, I'm looking at it like this. We just took Shamar Stewart, who was sort of this project guy, and he did not pan out at all. We took where they was who did they take? Oh, were they Brian Barisi or was that the Saints or were they
That was the
Murphy?
Saints.
So they were Murphy.
Murphy.
They take Murphy, another developmental edge guy who's big and has the traits, but they got to put it together. It doesn't work out. I think they're out on Banks. Honestly, I think Wood's stock dropped after the combine. He weighed in at under 300 pounds and then he didn't even test.
That was
That's just
crazy.
mind-boggling that he
That
lost
was
all that
crazy.
weight to just not test. So I don't know if the Bengals would go that way. And then on the flip side of that, yeah, I think Maui Go is certainly in play. They need offensive line help. Joe Burrow's the most sacked quarterback in the league just about every year. I think Maui Go would work there. Fano would work there. Freeland would work there. Delane would work there. Thieneman would work there. They need everything.
They're going to get a player that's immediately going to come in and be a big
Immediate
deal,
starter. I mean,
and that's super important.
immediate starter. Probably going to lead. If they take a defensive guy, I wouldn't be shocked if he leads the team in snaps.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the pick for Delane. You're here at 11 with Miami. The Dolphins would be really upset if Delane goes at 10 because I
Yeah, they
think
would.
that's the guy they really want at 11.
I agree. I think they'd be absolutely sick to their stomach. Now, with that said, I have Jermon McCoy as my CB1 in this class, and I think that Halfley would be exuberant to get Jermon
Love that
McCoy
word.
or Mansler Delane in the room. They need a corner. They just need someone who can come in and play sound football. I think that they still do need interior help. They need edge help, but they've spent first round picks on that. They Kenneth Grant last year, Chop Robinson the year before. So I don't think they're quickly looking to address that right now, even though this regime isn't who drafted that. Jermon McCoy is an absolute stud. I don't care that he didn't play at all in 2025. The last SEC corner we saw sit out the whole year was Derek Stingley, and look how that turned out. I love McCoy. His 2024 tape is unreal, and I think Halfley would be so happy to get McCoy or Delane, regardless, at 11.
Yeah, I think they need secondary help. They need it pretty badly, and that's really going to mess up the next pick in Dallas because they need that on their end very much as well. I feel like the Cowboys are in a tough spot here. You see their team needs. They need everything on the defensive side of the ball. They just miss out here on our draft on Delane and McCoy. They also could use a safety. Obviously, Caleb Downs is long gone, and they need edge rushing help in this regard, but they lose a lot of the top guys as well. Can you go to the edge rushing tab? I do want to see who's out here. And I'm not saying that I'm making this pick on the fly, but this is really hard for Dallas. All of a sudden, yeah, see, that's a high spot to take Akeem Mesidor. It's a high. They're going to be overdrafting here. I think they're going to look to trade back out of this pick. If this is how it breaks down for them IRL, I think if they lose out on these two corners, Styles and Downs, which is very, very likely, I think they're looking to get the heck out of this pick. I think they're looking to trade down, which I've seen people do. They need a safety. They need an edge. Where do we go? I'm going to overdraft Avion Terrell here, the corner out of Clemson. I know this is a really, really high spot for him to go, but we're not doing trades in this mock draft. And their secondary was abysmal last year. I think everything about their defense was bad, but we're going to go on a run here of 3 straight corners. I don't love this pick. If there was a different edge rusher on the board, I probably would have gone there. I don't believe in taking Akeem Mesidor that high. He's going to be 25 years old by the time of the draft. I think his age alone knocks him out of the top half of the first round. And everyone after him, it feels like a reach. You're reaching on something no matter what here. You might as well reach on a guy like Terrell who can come in and make an impact. And after losing Trayvon Diggs, letting him go, you desperately need help in your cornerback room.
Yeah, I have Terrell as my CB2, so I really don't see this as an overdraft. Now, I think based off his ADP and where he's being mocked, yeah, it probably is. But like you mentioned, we're not doing trades. You miss out on the elite edges. You miss out on what's presumed to be the top two corners. Where do you go from here? You could go Mesidor, but you got the first next year from Green Bay. There's really no reason to over or to take a 25-year-old. You're probably not playing for the Super Bowl this year, but next year is definitely the year that they're going all in for that Super Bowl. So I don't know if Mesidor would be the pick. I also think it'd be a little high for Mesidor, but I think Terrell fits exactly what Dallas is going to be looking to do with the new Philly guy over there as the DC, the Vic Fangio disciple. So
I'm blanking on his name as well. I can look that
yeah.
up right now. But as I do so, things have changed a bit for Los Angeles, JP. They held picks 13 and 29. A lot of people had them going tackle and corner with those picks. Well, they got the corner solved in exchange for their 29th pick and a really good one in Trent McDuffie. Do we finally see an offensive tackle go off the board here at 13? They have their pick of the litter if they want to do so.
I think the real trouble here is Maui Goa and Fano are probably guards at the NFL level. So if you're going tackle, it's going to be Freeling. That's probably a developmental pick. I think the Rams. We just saw with the McDuffie trade, the Rams are playing to win a Super Bowl. I don't know if Freeling fits that timeline. I'm giving them what I think will be Cam Curl's replacement. They let Cam Curl walk in free agency. They get an absolute stud to haunt the NFC West for even longer. And Dylan Thieneman, what can't you say about Thieneman? Any doubt I had about the guy's athleticism, and no, it's not just because he's a white safety, but any doubt that there was about his athleticism on the tape, absolutely silenced at the combine. The guy had one of the 5 best combines of anyone who was invited. The tape's unreal. They're getting a goddamn good football player.
Yeah, I think this is the one. I mean, you and I texted about a lot of guys at the combine, but we're watching Thieneman and our messages back. I mean, our jaws are dropped to the floor. Just unbelievable.
I,
Dude
the
ran a
the first
sub 4.4. That's
first
unbelievable
first first thing we said to each other, he won't even be there at 25. Hell, he won't even be there at 20.
for the Bears. Yeah, no. And honestly, I love it in this spot because a lot of people after the combine, a common place where Thieneman has been mocked is 18 to the Vikings to be a Harrison Smith replacement. Man, I don't want to deal with him twice a season for the foreseeable future. I'm that good for Dylan Thieneman, man. He's earned every bit of this. I remember really early on, like right when the offseason hit, we all texted our Bears group chats, like, man, this guy would be a great get for the Bears at 57. Man, he's not even going to get out of the top 20. That is long gone. Dreams on that. The secondary is going to be revamped and revived. I think this is a massive upgrade. I know Cam Curl's on his way out, like you said. They're going to they're going to reap the benefits of this pick down the line. They got a lot better in the back 7 this offseason if they come out of it with Trent McDuffie and Dylan Thieneman. We're nearing the midway point of the first round. Just a couple more picks before we hit our intermission. It is the Baltimore Ravens on the clock at 14, missing the playoffs by 1 game this year on a missed field goal in the final game of the regular season. I'm going to have them go on the offensive side of the ball. It is really just Zay Flowers in the pass catching room for Baltimore. I know they have needs on the defensive line, but you can get a guy of Kai Lemon's caliber at number 14. It's kind of a no-brainer, in my opinion, that they get to go there. It's the first round pick made in the Jesse Minter era, and it's a guy who I believe can make a splash for this organization.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting what's presumed to be the wide receiver 1 in the class all the way down at 14. If we had this conversation 2 weeks ago, I don't think there's a chance in hell Lemon's sitting there at 14. After all the rumors of him not only doing the public interviews, whatever the hell that was, at the combine, but I heard the team interviews also did not go good for him. I could see a fall in the draft, and the Ravens, as we know last year, they are not ones to care about character concerns as they took Mike Green in the second round. I
Mike
think
Green was
Makai
a
Lemon.
fan favorite here in the mock draft podcast
I
last year.
loved Mike Green. I couldn't believe he fell. He was horrible
I
this
was gonna say,
year.
how did he end up doing? I feel like I never heard anything from Mike Green.
Horrible. I think he had 2 sacks and like 6 pressures all year.
Jeez.
Yeah. But
Okay.
they would be Makai Lemon to the Ravens. I think it's a scheme fit too. On top of
Yeah.
it with Declan Doyle now calling the plays over
How
there. So
wild is that, man?
so I think it'd be a home run for them.
Alrighty, that'll wrap out the first 14 picks. We don't have much time left, and I don't want to cut JP off with Buccaneers at 15. So that is where we are going to pick up on the back end of this recording. Mock Draft 1.0, the Just Beavin podcast of this 2026 draft. Out of our quick break, JP is on the clock with Tampa Bay at number 15. I'm curious to see where you lean here, JP. And I mentioned you right before we hit the record button. I've had them pretty much at the same position, if not the same guy, when I've done my personal mocks at 15 for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. A guy I'm heavily considering would be Kenyon Sadiq. The only reason I'm not going that way is because this is the same regime that took OJ Howard in the first round, and I think they probably still have a little bit of
The regime's been
PTS.
there for that long.
Yeah, dude.
Holy cow. I
So I
didn't know
think they
that.
still have a little bit of PTSD from that. Another guy I'm heavily considering would be CJ Allen, but I don't think they go that way. I think they need a lot of edge help. Uh, I think Falk makes sense. I think Mesidor also makes sense if they're really pushing to win now and keep winning the division. I would take Cassius Howell here. That's who I'm gonna take. I think the likely realistic pick is they probably would go Mesidor. I'm a little lower on Mesidor than I think consensus is. I know Cassius Howell falls into the short arm club with Ruben Bain as well,
He
but the
does.
guy the guy is such a good pass rusher. That's what they need. They already have the run stoppers with Vita Vea. They have the run stoppers. They need someone who can go get after the passer, and I think Cash Howell immediately comes in and does that.
Pick my brain. Howell's been my guide. I'm not just saying that because that's who you picked. I've had them go edge. A couple of times I've had them go with Falk, but for the most part, man, it has been Cassius Howell. I think he's the guy who can just come in. You know what you're going to get from him. Falk's a younger guy, right? That's more of a developmental play. And then Mesidor at the same time, we've continually mentioned he is turning 25 the month of the draft. I feel like the ceiling is only so high on him there as well. It's really hard to try and pinpoint where you're at with Tampa. I think Howell's the safest play, and it's a guy who can come in and make an immediate impact. Edge rushing, a desperate need for the Buccaneers at 15. Second pick of the first round for the New York Jets. They went with, why am I blanking? Arvell Reese. I was going to say David Bailey, but I passed on David Bailey. Arvell Reese at pick number 2, and they are back on the clock here at 16. I'm going to have them take a pass catcher, despite the fact that the top 3 receivers are off the board. I've seen many mocks where they move up to go get a pass catcher. Obviously, no trades here, so that's not going to happen. I'm going to have them land Denzel Boston here at number 16 out of Washington. I like him as the best possible receiver on the board. Some could see it as a reach. I've seen him in the 20s. I definitely think he is a first round talent. Could have gone corner, but a lot of the top corners have slid as well. They need someone very badly on the opposite side of Garrett Wilson, and Boston fits that BPA, the wide receiver spot here at 16.
No, I wholeheartedly agree, and I think his play style fits Garrett Wilson perfectly. Garrett Wilson's that crosser guy, that middle of the field, intermediate, underneath kind of guy. Boston's a field extender. He wins contested balls. He wins going vertical. He wins on the post. He's a worse DK Metcalf, although coming out of college, obviously, I think Boston's tape's a lot better than Metcalf's was. But now seeing what Metcalf is, I think that would be Boston's absolute pinnacle. His absolute ceiling would be something in the DK Metcalf realm, and I think him paired with Garrett Wilson would be an absolute stellar pairing.
Yeah, and like we said, it's very much needed on their end. The Lions at 17. Do we get a tackle here, JP? Obviously, Detroit's coming off a disappointing season, missing the playoffs, or do they too load up on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I think this is the first tackle that I'm going to take here. I think it's going to be Francis Mauigoa. Um, Honestly, I do think he'll end up playing guard for whoever ends up taking him, but I think at the bare minimum, you have someone that you can slide in. I think he's certainly the safer option at tackle than Fano. I don't know if they're willing to sit through the Freeling experiment. They just took Tate Ratledge last year out of Georgia. Not that they're even comparable prospects. I just don't know if they're going to go the Georgia lineman route again. Uh, Taylor Decker is probably coming to the end of his career sooner rather than later, but I still think they trot him out there to start at tackle. I think you have a glaring hole at the left guard position, and I think Maui Goa can slot in and start immediately.
Yeah, I think you can make the argument for an edge rusher, still trying to get that guy on the opposite side of Aiden Hutchinson. I believe it was Al Qadim Muhammad, former Chicago Bear, who did a lot of that pass rushing opposite of Hutchinson this past year. But I also believe he's a free agent coming off a really good season. I don't know how likely it is that they retain him, especially because he'll probably command a higher price tag than what he's worth. Cough, cough, Dio Odinbingo or Odango, however you want to say his last name. Bears are still haunted by that contract. Either way, I agree. I think they need to go up front, get a bit younger there as well, and look toward the future. From one NFC North organization to another, the Minnesota Vikings are on the clock here at 18. I mentioned a few picks ago when Dylan Thieneman went off the board. I think he is their ideal guy at 18, but in our draft, he's not going to fall there. I don't think that changes this front office's mindset. They're going to still go in the defensive back realm. And this is another guy that I really, really like in this draft. And very similar to Thieneman, very much was mocked toward the middle of the second round when we initially got going. JP's already got him queued up. They're going to go with Emmanuel McNeil Warren here. I absolutely love what he brings to the table. He's a mid-major guy out of Toledo, some action, and by far the best player in the MAC in this draft. Just a real game wrecker on the defensive side of the ball in the secondary. Him and Thieneman pair really well behind Caleb Downs. Downs, the number one safety in this class, number one defensive back. It's not close, but still, this is a better safety class than we've seen in years past, and we have 3 go here in the top 18.
Yeah, I think with McNeil Warren, you're getting where Thieneman is more of your let him play all over the place, let him ball hawk, let him, if he wants to play down in the slot, let him just all over the field kind of guy. I think McNeil Warren is more not quite the same, but he's more built in that Derwin James as you're going to let him play down in the like Jamal Adams is kind of what I'm getting at. Like a Jamal Adams, you're going to let him play in the box, you're going to let him play downhill. You're gonna stick him in his zone and pass coverage, but he's gonna be a damn threat against the run, and he can play all over the field. He's gonna fit perfectly in a Brian Flores who loves to have 9 guys up at the line at points at times in the game. And yeah, I think McNeil Warren is I would hate to see him go to Minnesota, but I think it's a great landing spot.
Either Thieneman or McNeil Warren, Bears fans and the rest of the NFC North, they're in trouble if either one of those guys are down in the purple in the fall. How about the Carolina Panthers coming off an NFC South championship? They took LA down to the wire in the wild card round. That was a really good playoff matchup. And once again, they have some marginal needs all around as Dave Canales gets ready to run this thing back and try to win another division title this year.
Yeah, I think the glaring holes there were on the defense. Now, do you want to go tackle? Do you want to put someone next to Brown? Do you want to go edge, even though you spent the early second on Skelton last year and you spent the third on Umanuelen out of Ole Miss? I still believe in Skelton. I was a little lower on Princely, but I thought they got good value on him. Are you throwing in the towel on him? And are you looking at someone like Mesidor? Are you looking at maybe a project with Falk? I think would be certainly interesting next to Skelton. Uh, but I think this pick is certainly going to shock a lot of people. I'm going to have them taking linebacker, and I'm going to have them take Jacob Rodriguez
Wow.
out of Texas Tech. I just finished the linebacker film. I certainly think Jacob Rodriguez combine at the bare minimum answered any questions that could have been asked about him. He's a physical freak. He's an absolute beast of an athlete. I really don't think C.J. Allen is a first round talent. I just don't see it with him on the tape. Jacob Rodriguez, on the other hand, the Panthers just won the division for the first time since the Cam Newton years. we all know the offense, Bryce Young. That's obviously the biggest looming question going into the season for the Panthers. But they were allowing like 25, 26, 27. I don't know the exact number. They were allowing a lot of points, and that's why they were losing a lot of games. I think Jacob Rodriguez instantly comes in. You get a guy who is great in coverage at the linebacker position, can rush the passer, fills the gaps against running backs. You're getting one of the best overall. I think you're getting the safest floor of any prospect in the entire draft when you take Jacob Rodriguez, and I think he's worth every bit of a first round pick.
He's going to be a stud in this league. And I think that's been being a guy who's finished, I think he was 5th in the Heisman voting, if I'm not wrong. He was a top 5 Heisman vote getter. And just everything he put together on tape. This is the prime example of tape guy over testing. I think he tested okay too. Not that doesn't
He
matter.
did test solid.
Yeah, you just watch the tape. That's really all you need to know on this guy. And I know a lot of teams are like, man, we can get him out of the second round. I think initially it was like 3rd, 4th round for mock drafting a month ago. It's like, man,
and I thought that was high. I will be honest. Prior to watching Jacob Rodriguez tape, we had the conversation during the combine where we were like, "Oh, I would love Rodriguez, but I don't know. Second round pick might be a little high for me." I got through the tape.
like,
I literally wrote up in my write up, "How was he not a finalist for the Heisman?" I could not believe it. I was beyond impressed by his tape.
So now we always talk as Bears fans first, obviously. Now, if he's somehow there at 57, I think we're sprinting to the podium and turning that card, and he won't be there.
No
But
hesitation.
It's nuts how much everyone's come around on him. I mean, we've known he's a great prospect. He's a great talent. It's more or less, he's a linebacker. What's really the ceiling there? It's like, no, man, this dude can just go out and ball. And I think people are finally starting to come around on that. Definitely a stunner here when looking at what I was thinking you were going to do. But in terms of from a talent standpoint, man, no, this is an excellent pick. This is a great, great fit for Carolina at 19. It plugs a huge need on the defensive side of the ball. And that's where I'm going to have Dallas go here at 20. They traded Micah Parsons last year to Green Bay, have them go corner at 12 and Terrell. I think out of this draft, if, barring trades, I don't think they're in on Crosby anymore. So if they still do have 12 and 20 and they don't make any moves, they need to get out of the first round with a defensive back and they need to get out of the first round with an edge rusher. I'm making the pick based on this is such a Dallas Cowboys selection. This edge rusher is such a Dallas Cowboy. It's not even funny. I would pick TJ Parker here, but I'm going to have them take Akeem Mesidor. It is such a Jerry Jones pick. It is not even funny, man. And you mentioned with Falk. Falk's a great prospect. He's a project. That's not what Dallas needs right now. So I check him off my list instantly. If I'm going pound for pound, I'm taking TJ Parker all day. But man, Akeem Mesidor just screams Cowboy. This pick makes all the sense in the world. They get their guy to help on the outside. Hopefully, for their sake, they make a trade for someone. They sign someone in free agency, and they actually have the ability to put some pressure on the quarterback in the Christian Parker era. We were looking for that name earlier as their new defensive coordinator. I have Mesidor here at 20 to Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Mesidor at 12, so if you're getting him at 20, I mean, that's a bargain. If we were debating him at 12, on top of that, yeah, I think like you said, it's the most Cowboys pick ever. I can already see Michael Irvin coked up and Jerry Jones here being you got to get Mesidor, you got to get
Yeah.
Mesidor, you got to get Mesidor, and yeah, putting up the U and I think that while I would certainly grade this pick terribly, I think it is such a Dallas Cowboys pick.
Yeah, it makes really all the sense in the world. I'm kind of happy I don't hold 21 here because Pittsburgh could do something that would be very much what like they did 4 years ago. If anyone catches my drift, I don't know what they're going to do here. That's why I'm happy you have this pick, JP. What direction do we have Pittsburgh going at 21 in the now Mike McCarthy era in the Steel City?
I will lead this conversation off with saying I do think Ty Simpson is 10 times better the prospect than Kenny Pickett was. On top of that, I think the staff's a little more put together. Not that Pickett was ever going to turn into a capable starter, but
Right.
Mike McCarthy does at least do all right work with quarterbacks. With that said, though, I'm going to act under the assumption that A-Rod's coming back for one last ride with Big Mike. Now, I think that'd be the worst possible case
I
scenario
I
for the
agree. Yeah.
Steelers. But I think that's what's going to end up happening here. I'm giving them Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana. We are now at 5 wide receivers taken in the first 21 picks, which is
Wow.
pretty nuts. I think Cooper, the exact same way we talked about Garrett Wilson and DK Metcalf. I think Omar Cooper Jr., this is a real thing. D'Angelo Pons said that if he had to give a pro comp to Omar Cooper Jr., it would be Devontae Adams. I
Not a
think
bad
Omar
guy to have.
no, I think Omar Cooper coming in playing next to DK Metcalf would be perfect. Let alone he gets to be with his with Rodgers, who if he reminds him of Devontae Adams, I mean, who knows what 46-year-old ayahuasca Rodgers can do with a Devontae Adams esque kind of guy. But even for the future, if you're getting even Devontae Adams light, that's a great pick with a good quarterback class coming up next year. I think you get a home run with Omar Cooper at 21.
Yeah, I don't mind passing on Simpson here. I think best case scenario, if he's somehow around with your second round pick, maybe you then get a steal there. They got Will Howard, and I know Will Howard probably doesn't project long term as the guy, but it's someone worth taking note of in your room. And yeah, Rodgers a good bridge for another year. This just isn't worth it for the class. And Cooper's an insane talent. You got to watch a ton of him as an IU fan this past year, and he makes a lot of sense. They really do need another guy outside of DK. They were really putting it together with duct tape and glue this past season of their receiver, relying on Pat Fryermuth and Jonnu Smith, who's no longer a Steeler. He was cut today. They need guys who can desperately catch balls for Aaron Rodgers, and that would be Cooper here in this spot. The LA Chargers at 22. I watched a lot of Chargers football this past year. If you follow Beaverfest, you know I am the Justin Herbert owner in this league. He had no help up front, and a lot of that's due to injury. I completely understand that. But the interior offensive line is just completely gashed right now for LA. And this is where we get our first guard of the draft. I'm going to take Olivega Ione. I'm probably butchering that name like nuts out of Penn State, but I think this guy's a great fit here. They desperately need help up front in all aspects. It'll help out the running game too after taking Omarion Hampton in the first round last year. Joe Alt's back. Rashawn Slater should be good to go as well when looking at the tackles. So they're fine. And I say, oh, he didn't have any help. Yeah, his two tackles are injured. You're not going to get much help there. But even with those guys healthy, the interior offensive line's a glaring weakness on the offensive side of the ball, and this pick here definitely helps that out.
Yeah, when Mekhi Becton got released the other day, I texted my group chat and I said, "Wow, you're telling me Mekhi Becton didn't work out in LA? I am so shocked." Um, yeah, they need help up front. Alt was injured. I'm blanking on the left tackle now, the Northwestern guy.
Rashawn Slater.
Yep, Rashawn Slater. They had the injuries decimated them, but even so, the interior was so bad. I mean, awful. That playoff game, New England versus LA, it felt like I think Herbert got sacked 5 or 6 times,
He
and it
was
felt
running
like
for his life the
yeah,
whole game.
running for his life. They need interior help. I really do think that Oliva Vega is a top 20 guy in this class. So to get him at 22, I think makes a lot of sense.
And Philly at 23, I feel like this is one of the higher selections they've had in recent years. I feel like once again, I mean, they obviously have needs, but I feel like we drafted them last year out of the end of the first round as, man, they have a lot of spots filled. This could just be best available or who they think fits well for their future. Do you think that's a similar mindset despite picking a bit higher here at 23?
I think there is one guy that replaces someone who is going to be leaving Philadelphia, would be my guess. I don't think he's sticking around. I think this is actually the easiest pick I've made since I really don't know when. If I scrolled back up here, I would probably have to say this is the easiest pick I've made since Sonny Styles to Washington. Uh, I'm going to be taking Kenyon Sadiq to Philly. I think the Dallas Goddard's time is up in Philly. I think that's the rumor out of the Philly camp. I think it's the reality. Sean Mannion coming over from Green Bay, getting to work with Tucker Kraft. You see what having a very athletic tight end can do. Sadiq tested like an absolute freak. He ran a 4.4 4.4 flat 40 at the tight end position. It just doesn't happen. Whether the stats and numbers are there to back it up, Philly's good enough where I think you're able to take if AJ Brown sticks around. This could be a whole different conversation in a week or two. The next time we do a mock, if AJ Brown's even still in Philly, but I think Philly's good enough where you can take the risk on Sadiq,
And what an
whatever the
awesome,
risk would be.
yeah, what an awesome pick that is for them too. I mean, truly a home run, getting a guy of his caliber and a huge, in terms of athleticism, a massive upgrade compared to Dallas Goddard. You're resetting the wheel on age as well. It really helps out. Hopefully, I mean, yeah, as fantasy owners know, it was a frustrating year to own anyone in the Philly offense. I owned Vonta Smith, and I was, pulling teeth figuring out what the heck to do with him. And yeah, it's just a much needed talent upgrade on that side. I've seen tackle. I don't know, have you seen tackle a lot for them at 23? I see a lot of people go tackle, and this could be a really good spot if we're talking a guy to sit and develop. This would be a really good landing place for Monroe Freeling if that's the mindset they want to have. But I mean, if Sadiq's there, it's really hard to pass. I don't know if you're looking what you're talking edge rusher, could get a Folk developmental guy. If they're looking to develop JP, and this is the board minus Sadiq, they're in a good spot there too.
Yeah, I think it all depends on what Lane Johnson's future looks like. You know, if next year is the last year, I'm sure he's let Philly know that he's at least mulling retirement more than he has before. And I think if on draft night we're sitting here and Freeling is there, big key about that. If Freeling is there and Freeling goes here, I think that'll be all signs pointing towards Lane Johnson hanging it up at the end of 2026.
And that would give him a year to really get comfortable, develop a bit more. I know Stoutland, he's no longer in Philly, period, right? I know they originally took away some duties from him, but now he's,
I think he's on as like some reserve position was the last I saw.
but it's a lesser
Uh,
role.
Much lesser. I don't think he's hands on at all.
So that's it's important to note as well and to see what that could mean for the future of the Philly offensive line. We circle back to a conversation we had at the very beginning of this draft, and it works out really well for me with Cleveland here at 24. We're debating, do they reach up and get Mauigoa, a tackle at 6? Do they take a guy like Carnell Tate, a blue chip receiver, better at that spot? We took a receiver. I took a receiver, and it's a good thing. The receiver board has been decimated here in the top 23 picks. If they were to take a receiver right now, it would probably be Casey Concepcion, I think would be the best on the board. And
Yeah.
then a huge drop with Chris Bell in terms of, according to PFF, the next best guy there. So in this case, the decision for me works out pretty well. They need everything on the offensive line. They really do. And I think if we're looking at a pure tackle, they are not the perfect team for Monroe Freeling. I think, if anything, they are the worst possible fit for Monroe Freeling. You could go Caden Proctor. You could go with Lomo as well out of Utah. Or no, where did Lomo go? He's not a Utah guy. Where's Lomo from? Blanking on
He's
that.
Utah.
He is Utah as well. So there you go. Doubling up on the Utah guys. But I think this is, in terms of, you see his ADP, you see his rank, Spencer Fano falling to them at 24. And I know you mentioned he may not project long term as a tackle in the NFL. That's fine. As we've mentioned, Cleveland has all 5 offensive linemen as pending free agents. This is perfect for them, regardless of where Fano works out. He has the ability to be a really good player in this league. Down the line, they got to go tackle again. They can figure it out. Either way, you're getting a long-term starter on the O-line here and a guy who could have gone much earlier in the first round. If Cleveland walks out of this thing with Carnell Tate and Spencer Fano, I think that is a very, very big night for success in day one.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head what exactly Cleveland's day 2 picks are. I know if they're picking 6, they probably own 39. We're looking at their needs right now. You see guard and tackle both right there. You get wide receiver as well at 6. You get Fano at 24. He slots in, I think, as your guard. You have, Max Ihanakor out of Arizona State there. You have Blake Miller potentially there at 39 or whatever it is. Hell, you have the teammate in Lomu, and then I think the line is almost, I mean, not rebuilt, but you've addressed 2 big needs with your
Yeah.
first 3 picks. Plus, you got the blue chip and Carnell Tate. I think Fano at 24 would be an absolute pipe dream for them, and I think would go. I know Jacksonville made the playoffs and should have beat Buffalo in that playoff game, but they got to be sick to their stomach seeing how this board's fallen and not owning this pick.
Yeah. Hard for them to grasp in that spot. One thing that's not hard to grasp for the Chicago Bears, we promise we don't do things like this way. It just shakes out. JP, this would be huge for Chicago. This is how the board shapes out to 25. I think I know exactly what position you're going to go to. Um, I'm assuming you're going to go D line, and you are. Man, the options, you could go with any of these guys, and you're coming out very, very happy. What a board this would shake for Ryan Poles and company.
Yeah, staring at this and it's staring back at me now. Did we probably let some of the D linemen? Did we possibly let Banks fall a little far? Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
But we discussed it, and I'm sticking to what we went with. I think that there's a real possibility. I mean, Banks didn't play a lot of football in 2025. He's coming off a major injury. I think McDonald. This is McDonald's. This is where his range really starts. He brings pretty much nothing as a pass rusher. We talked about Peter Woods earlier. I think Miller is certainly locked himself in as a day 2 guy. And fuck, as much as I love Lee Hunter, I think he's also probably a late 1 day 2 guy. But Lee Hunter's a freaking beast. With all that said, if Caleb Banks is here at 25 and Ryan Poles does not take Caleb Banks, I will be posting some very slanderous things on Twitter because I just could not believe that we're getting a top 15 prospect all the way down at 25. I think he instantly comes in, and I believe in our coaching staff, which is another thing with Caleb Banks. I think there's a lot to work on with Banks. He's developmental, like we talked about when the Bengals were up. I think we talked about them taking maybe Caleb Banks there. There's some development that's got to be done, but the athleticism and the tools, and he's already had solid production, but it can be elite, great production. I believe in our coaching staff and what Ben Johnson put together. I think Banks would be an absolute home run, and this would bring tears to my eye.
Yeah. I mean, you said it, dude. Interior D line is everything. I think we're hoping, and you and I have said this, multiple text exchanges, edge rushing outside of Montez Sweat. We've been asking for it for 2 to 3 years, ever since he got here, really. We're hoping that gets handled within the next week. Don't get me wrong, still would like to draft an edge, maybe late day 2, early day 3. You can never have enough pass rushers on your squad. But we're hoping that gets taken care of because you're seeing the prime example. You said it. We probably let some tackles fall a bit further, but hey, there's fallers in every draft. There are risers, there are fallers. Jacob Rodriguez, a riser. I know Terrell is probably going to be a top 20 pick, but he went a bit higher in the teens than maybe originally anticipated. Akeem Mesidor went earlier, possibly as well. There's a lot of factors that go into this, but either way, with this being a deeper D tackle class, it seems to be the position Chicago would go with at 25. Granted, they still hold the pick. A lot of things could happen in the next week. I love Banks. You mentioned Hunter. I think if we're in a world where the tackles go early and Hunter's there, I'm happy with Hunter. I'm fine with Caden McDonald. You mentioned the five guys.
All of them.
Christian Miller would probably be the one I'd be least excited about on that list. But if we took Christian Miller, I'm also fine because hey, it's a guy who can come in, fills a need, immediate impact day one starter. So this would be super awesome if that's how the board shook out for Chicago. Caleb Banks, a slam dunk pick at 25. Looking at 26 in Buffalo, they just acquired DJ Moore from our Bears today. A lot of people prior to that trade, even post trade, I've seen some mocks after these trades today, still having them go receiver at 26. The receiver board's not super friendly, and I just think they have a bigger need they can address. Going to go edge rusher here at 26 for Buffalo. And once again, you go to Kedrick Falk. Do you want a developmental guy? Buffalo's in the position they need to start winning, and they need to keep winning now. TJ Parker is right in their lap at 26. And if this is how the board moves for them, I don't see how they pass. They've had a revolving door of veteran edge rushers, Bosa, Von Miller in the last couple of years to match up on the opposite side of Rousseau. That finally ends here. I think Parker's a guy they draft and can develop and keep around for a long time.
Yeah, I love TJ Parker. We've been talking about TJ Parker since November.
Yeah.
Since mocks really started up again. We've been talking about TJ Parker. And this has been his range. His 2024 tape. He was coming into the summer. TJ Parker was looked at as a top 5 prospect in the draft. Tom Allen shows up in at Clemson and absolutely decimates every single Clemson defensive player stock. And TJ Parker is now sitting here over or undervalued for any contending team for him to fall right into their lap. Bills splash and get DJ Moore, and then get, like you said, the much needed edge help. Yeah, that'd be a home run for Bean and co. Although they always strike me as the Maxwell Harrison they took, Keon Coleman. They're the Tracy guys.
So maybe then Falk would make sense.
That's what I'm saying. I think Falk would make sense, but Parker's definitely the better pick.
And now for San Fran at 27, coming off a weird year, they found a way to have success despite injuries, and they're only getting older, and they're running the risk of guys leaving not even after this year, but years to follow. They're aging, and that there's no denying that, JP. And because of their aging, they have to anticipate which veterans they're going to lose soon, and that could very well impact this pick.
Yeah, they took Alfred Collins and CJ West last year at the D tackle position. Now, granted, you don't have any say in the league just because you were a 3rd round pick. So I think McDonald's in play here. I think Woods is in play here. I think Miller's in play here. I think Hunter's in play here. They need an edge. They just took Mykel Williams with the 11th pick last year. Why do they need an edge? Because he sucks. Said that when it happened. Still happens now. Although I'm not overly inspired by Keldrick Falk going to San Fran. It's basically Mykel Williams, a beast against the run with absolutely no pass rush. Although I think Falk's ceiling's higher. This team was decimated when Fred Warner went down at the linebacker position. The question is, can C.J. Allen play the off-ball linebacker position? I think the answer is yes. They just got Raheem Morris, who came over from Atlanta after being fired, and they had no linebackers there, and we saw the results of that. That defense was pretty porous. I think they're going to go C.J. Allen here if he's available because Fred Warner's now coming off his 2nd major injury, and yeah, I mean, you're getting C.J. Allen, who's looked at as a top 20 prospect in the draft at 27.
Yeah, I was curious if you were going to go edge. Offensive tackle, certainly in play with Trent Williams, future unknown. He may not even be a Niner this year. I think he will be. I think they'll figure something out.
I think so too.
Beyond this year, who knows? That would also be a really good spot for Monroe Freeling. Talking about
I thought about that one too, but only if Williams came back.
Exactly.
Would be my thing.
Exactly. And that's your problem. So we really don't know. I like Allen. It's a guy who, like you mentioned with Warner, his health is all of a sudden kind of up in the air. It makes a lot of sense. Texans at 28. This actually just happened right now. I am going to have them go on the defensive line. Per reports, literally happened live on the pod. They agreed to a 1-year, $40.1 million extension with Danielle Hunter.
Holy cow.
It's a lot of money for Danielle Hunter. I don't know if I completely agree with that financially, but it's very clear they've taken care of him and Will Anderson. They have their edge rushers. They really badly need help on the interior. And lucky for them, JP, the interior defensive line board has fallen to them really, really well here at 28. I can see Caden McDonald. I can see Peter Wood. All the guys. I could literally see all of them. Peter Woods, in my opinion, I have him as the better prospect on the board out of all the interior defensive linemen remaining. it's a great get here for Houston to continue to bolster that defensive line at 28.
Yeah, I think tackle's also in play here. I think guard would be in play, although, what qualifies as a guard in this class. They did just sign former Texan, longtime Texan Trent Brown today. They re-signed him to a contract, so that pretty much replaced Titus Howard that they sent out to Cleveland the other day. So that's at least one of your starting left tackles, and I'm blanking on the other tackle. Blake Fisher, I believe is his name, from Notre
Yep.
Dame, is the starting right tackle over there. Um, their whole offensive line inspires no confidence in me, but it is D'Amico Ryan's show, and I think Peter Woods makes sense there.
29, Kansas City. We had them. How am I blanking on their pick? Oh, Jordan Tyson. You took Jordan Tyson.
I did take Jordan Tyson.
They traded away Trent McDuffie. Do they draft his replacement here, or are we sticking on the trenches?
We are going to be sticking on the trenches. They released Jawan Taylor earlier in the week. I'm looking at the board. I'm not sure if Freeling is going to be the guy in Kansas City, like we've been talking about. They need to win now. Blake Miller, I actually like Blake Miller. I think Blake Miller's got a lot of potential. With that said, though, you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback. I think the need on the defense is much higher than it is on the offense. I think this is where we see Lee Hunter go. I think
All
Lee
right.
Hunter falls right into the lap of the Chiefs. Who, I mean, if the draft ends up like this is an A+ for me. I don't care what they do from rounds 2 to 7. If they get Jordan Tyson and Lee Hunter in the first round, this would be an absolute home run. Honestly, I want to put it like this. I took Lee Hunter, but if they were to go McDonald or Miller there, Christian Miller, not Blake Miller, that would have been a home run regardless for me. I think if they can put any soul, any breathing body next to Chris Jones, it's an absolute home run. You've already invested too much, even though they've all missed. I mean, Karlaftis is all right; he's overpaid. You drafted Ashton Giolotti in the 3rd round last year. They took that Kansas State guy. I don't know his name off the top of my head. I know it's like 3 names,
Really
but
long name. Yeah.
yeah, he's been an absolute bust. But you already spent a first on him. You don't have picks to just throw away like that. You got the third back from KC earlier today. Like we said earlier, this edge class has got a lot of day 2 guys. Or you got the third back from LA, although I think that was in 27. But regardless, this is a deep edge class. You're gonna have guys on day 2. You're gonna have guys on day 3. The moment that Woods, Hunter, McDonald, uh, the big 5 of the DTs, the moment they're gone, it is a huge drop off in
Yeah.
DT. I think you're looking at the board right now. You have your guy. You go get him.
I like that pick, man. They love the Big 12. They love it here in the first round. Another breaking news for football fans, particularly for me and JP. Tremaine Edmonds has officially been cut by the Chicago Bears. So no
Damn.
trade partner. I know we're disappointed in that. We're getting a couple of breaking news here on the pod tonight. And it's unfortunate that the Bears could not get a
Damn.
pick for him. Denver at 30. I think if this is how the board shapes out for them, they would have really liked Kenyon Sadiq. He's gone. They really would have liked CJ Allen. He's gone as well. I think they would love to find a trade partner here, if at all possible, to be out. We're not doing trades, so that's not going to happen. We can't get out of this first round, JP, without another wide receiver, and that's where I'm going to have them go here. Casey Concepcion, come on down, the young man out of Texas A&M, and that'll round out, presumably, our first round wide receiver talent in the mock draft 1.0.
Yeah, I think Concepcion, while he's similar in stature to the likes of Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims, he brings that joker that Sean Payton's known to have. You get a guy who, when he was at NC State, he had 70 career carries. I mean, the guy lined up as running back. He can play all over. He's going to be an elite return weapon. He's going to be an elite wide receiver in the underneath game. You already have Cortland Sutton as the true outside X guy. You need someone to work the middle of the field, the short routes. I think Troy Franklin, while he is like small, he's like small. He's skinny, he's little, he's tiny. Concepcion's a little more built at the small stature. I think Concepcion works out there. I can't believe we just had 6 wide receivers go in the first round.
Hey, it's a solid class in terms of talent, at least on the higher end. The defending AFC champions, JP, they have a need on the defensive line. It's a project that could work, and that's exactly where we're going. Keldrick Falk.
Yeah, they're in my write up off the top of my head. I have Keldrick Falk's pro comparison to Harold Landry of today. And not only is Harold Landry in New England, he is a Mike Vrabel handpicked guy from the Tennessee days. Harold Landry guy who was an elite pass rusher about the third year of his career. Then, as he got older and slower, became purely a run defender. I think with Keldrick Falk, you're getting just that. You're getting a guy who's coming into the league as literally the best run defending edge in the entire class. There's nobody who does it better than him. The problem is it's like the scene from Moneyball. You got a guy who's 6'5", 275 pounds, and he can stop the run. The problem, 2 sacks in
Yeah.
2 years at Auburn. So, there's a lot to work with, but I think Keldrick Falk is gonna blossom, especially if he ends up in New England.
Would be a good fit for Mike Vrabel, no doubt. I think that's a perfect spot. I've seen R. Mason Thomas go as well if a guy like Falk is off the board. I think edge is definitely the play for New England as long as they got a guy there they feel is confident with the value. We round out mock draft 1.0 with the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. They're losing some guys in free agency. They could fill a couple of certain positions. I'm going to have them stick in the secondary here. Colton Hood is the pick for me at 32. Tariq Woolen, a really, really bad season, almost cost them the playoffs as well. He's on his way out, and Hood would be a nice guy to sit in the secondary, learn from some of the guys there, work on the other side of Devon Witherspoon.
Yeah, I love Hood. I think his tape's right up there with the big three at corner. He's certainly worth a first round pick. Early day two, late day one kind of guy. And yeah, like you mentioned, Reek Woolen, going from that rookie season to where it looked like he was going to be this unbelievable 6'5" corner who was with 4.3 speed to now being pretty dog water, is quite the turn of events. And I think Colton Hood will slide in perfectly with Witherspoon and whoever they end up going with opposite of Hood.
And that'll wrap it out here for our first mock draft. We're still waiting for PFF to grade our mock draft. Would love to show the 1 through 32 board for you. Here it is. Go to beaver.fest on Instagram as well. We'll post this board after we release the episode. This is our 1 through 32 pre-free agency. No trades. League officially opens up for the tampering period next Monday. Before we let everyone go, JP, any closing thoughts?
Just happy to be back talking football. Was a
Yeah,
long
man.
break. Love doing the mocks, so happy to be back.
Awesome. 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 Another mock draft in the books. We'll have at least one, if not two more for you before the actual draft at the end of April. We thank you so much for tuning in. As always, here on the Just Beavin podcast, make sure to keep all things tapped here. We will talk to you next time.